All right, good morning, everybody. Obviously, Wall Street Jesus here, members only Saturday sweep series. I want to apologize for my voice. You might hear some sniffles out of me, a little under the weather, feeling a little bit better. But this, one day 85 degrees, the next day damp, cold, and raining, it's just not going to cut it for me. But anyway, nobody wants to hear me complain. Um, I know a lot of you guys are going to watch this on recording. This is obviously going to be recorded. If you got anybody got to leave early, I will post the link in the room and on private Twitter. So don't fret. All right. All right. Let's get right into things. We were talking about a little bit before we started the recording um, of how this market. See, Thursday, Friday, not even Thursday, because we had the tariffs scare and there was weakness. But even before the explosion and the squeeze Friday, if you guys remember, we were talking about how under the hood, I like to use that term a lot until I find a better one than that. But under the hood, while the markets were just sitting around not doing anything, okay, and more so SPY and SPX than anything else, right? We were in this consolidation breather. Um, Under the hood, there was some solid buying in individual names, okay? And there was individual name outperformance, all right? Not everything. I had a couple of names that really I bought that didn't do much at all yet, but there were a decent amount, especially the FANG names, the names you guys like to trade, some tech names. There was some decent outperformance. And I think that's going to be an ongoing trend. We were talking about that for a couple of weeks now. I think that's the best case scenario through this summer. If we rally as a whole, even better. But as we get into the lighter volume seasonally here into the summer, the individual names I think we need to focus more on. Okay. And again, we referenced to how we were coming out of a climate where sentiment trumped all, right? You wanted sentiment on your side because everything was so correlated in the initial phases of this correction. Now I think flow, as we spoke about last 2 weeks, flow trumps all. Okay. So again, in a simple English sentence, you don't want to buy if sentiment's overheated. If everyone's doing cartwheels, everybody's bullish, you want to try to hold back from buying anything new. But at the same time, you don't have to necessarily wait for green signals off our sentiment indicators to look to buy something. You get a day like Thursday was a perfect example. Thursday, we had weakness in the markets, the overall markets. Okay. Flow looked completely different. Thursday was one of the better days of action we saw all week. You had FANG names that were up on the day. I mean, Facebook got sprayed with sweepers right off the open, steady action throughout the day and was green, strong all day. You could see here. So, that's the type of stuff. And that's where I think flow can provide such a huge edge for us again. Because again, I'm the first to admit it. When you go into this type of climate, a correction, okay, especially the initial part of that correction where everything goes up and down with the market, flow is almost useless in a sense in individual names, okay, because you could see a buyer of, let's say, Facebook calls, all right, and if sentiment's not on your side and the rest of FANG is weak, chances are Facebook will be weak with everything else. That's just the environment we're in. That's not the case anymore. Okay. And we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. And it's pretty evident now that that's not the case. Okay. So, what I think is most important here, you could get a really good indication, especially early morning, of what names and sectors may be in play. okay, may have momentum that day. So if you're a day trader or a short-term trader in general, a couple days, you want to pay attention to where the action's going, because that's where the juice is going to be. Okay, so if you're looking for movement, that's what you want to focus on. All right, if you're a little longer term, intermediate term swing trader, you don't have to concern yourself too much with that, because there's opportunities in buying weakness in things that aren't participating. Okay, but again, the Facebook example, the FANG example in general, Google had some action. The Chinese names, to the semiconductor names. So we were seeing where the money was going early on in the sessions late last week. All right, so that's something I think is really important here as we go into next week, because what I think may happen, I think we're likely to continue to see that rotation. Okay, so as a lot of this stuff got hot here, they're going to reach a point where they need to breathe. They need to pause. And I think what happens then, you're going to have money come back into, let's say, IWM and some of the under the hood names in the small cap arena. Right? Remember how this was leading initially? Okay, and you could say this is still looking good, still grinding higher, but wasn't necessarily outperforming. Okay, so that's where that rotation comes into play, and we'll start to see the flow spill into other things. Hopefully at some point we see it come into some of the stuff that really hasn't participated at all. Okay, but here's a good example of where we were at and why this needed to happen. All right, so here's the sector. This is sector by sector ETF sentiment. Okay, just gives you an idea what stuff may be overheated, what stuff has been out of favor for a while. There may be opportunities if you see some flow. Okay, and we were at a point where, for example, remember we were talking about energy, right? How scorched it was going up every single day, and that was leading. And you can see right here. Okay, so eventually that's not going to go on forever. It may feel like it, right? Because even though sentiment's hot, it continues to grind higher. But eventually this happens. We talk about this all the time, right? They catch them, they wash it out. And then what happens is that money is going to go elsewhere, So that's what we're seeing right now. And I think that's a good thing. But you can't get discouraged and it can get frustrating at times, if stuff you're in is not moving, as long as you have enough time on your side as a swing trader. Okay, so these are things to pay attention to, because I think they're going to be important throughout the summer. I don't foresee, it's not likely to happen where we get that end of the year 2017 where everything goes gangbuster. I don't know if there's going to be enough juice in the market. I don't think there's for every sector to participate. I think money's going to move around, and you're going to get sort of what we're seeing here on SPY, where it's choppy, maybe with a tilt higher, some shakeouts from time to time. Europe, Italy, that stuff's not going away. You're going to get headlines like that. The tariff stuff, all that nonsense. Okay, but when we see that stuff, that's where I think it's important to, kind of get an idea of where the flow is going and what sectors may be in play at that time. All right, but I think it all bodes well. I think weakness is the opportunity. We still got to pay attention to sentiment. Let's go over some of the sentiment stuff so you can see where we're at. Some interesting things here. All right, this one has pretty much been the roadmap, right? Short-term trader sentiment. This has been the roadmap throughout this whole correction. You can see this recent dip, right, where we got us right here. I think we even gapped up the next day. You see right here. All right, so we even got a bullish sentiment signal. I mean, just barely, but we got one. Didn't last too long out of just some headline news, not even that much weakness. Okay, this is the stuff you just want to watch out for as far as buying, putting on new risk. I would not take this right now as automatic sell signals because I think we're in a different climate right now. All right, great. And here's the issue. Let's say you do get this. Okay, let's say we rally next week and we get a spike up to here. All right, and you're in a name that really hasn't rallied like Facebook has or Google has late last week. That name may hold up better, may outperform, even if the market does take a breather. So that's what I'm saying. You don't want to use this now as an instant sell signal, okay? Maybe if you're trading the market, a time to raise stops and, the SPY, ES, that stuff. But you just, the way I look at it is you don't want to put on any new risk exposure. You don't want to put on any new names. You probably want to sit, wait, just like here. You see here? Let some sort of breather, no major pullback, but just a breather. And then, once this softens down to neutral around here, then you start looking again. Does that make sense? As opposed to what kind of environment we were in and how the playbook was different. Remember, we kept talking about the playbook, not to try to confuse you guys, but remember how we were talking about you have to have an idea of what type of environment you're in. You can't have the same playbook in every environment. So I think now this is a little different where you don't necessarily have to jump the gun here. You don't have to wait for this buy signal to buy. Okay, you don't have to take the sell signals as get the hell out because a big wash is coming. I would look at it more as far as risk exposure. You want to put on most of your positions as we're at neutral or better, and you want to start taking off some risk. You know what I mean? Raising stops. Try not to put on anything too much further on as far as the risk department up here. All right, so this has been pretty much our roadmap throughout, has been solid. We look at that every day. I post it on private Twitter as well every day. I showed you guys the sector sentiment. Here's a simple equity put to call, always worth looking at. Kind of just stuck in neutral here. You can see a little bit too hot here, just like that other indicator we were looking at, but little breather, softened it up. So that's fine. The squeezometer, you guys see it every day. This is an intraday, again, very short-term, extreme short-term indicator. Honestly, we didn't get as hot as I thought we would be on Friday. I thought we'd be over here somewhere. So this bodes well for next week. What else we got? This is VIX. They unraveled that. We had a buy signal here at the end of the month. And VIX buying, short-term VIX buying, meaning some nerves off the Italy situation. They unraveled all that. That's gone. All right. This is what I found interesting here. Remember how we were talking about crude banging its head up against the hot zone here, remember? Look where it's at. That's pretty incredible, huh? See how quick it happens? So now, you could, if you were waiting for a pullback, and that's the way I look at it, if you were waiting for a pullback in a lot of these energy names that caught a ton of flow and had huge moves, start to look at these things again, especially if you're seeing some flow. Especially if you're seeing some flow. If you're not interested in them, there's no reason, to bum rush these things right now. If we get down here, then we should start taking a hard look at the action coming in. But, if you were waiting for a pullback, obviously you got a much better risk reward. A much better entry than up here with limited upside, in my opinion. Okay, but this is huge. This is huge. And it makes you feel good when you really, it's hard to do, not chase these things. And then you finally see this. You're like, thank God. I couldn't watch these things continue to go higher every day without me involved. All right, so I wanted to bring that to your attention, the crude scenario there. As far as the overall markets, this is what we look at. Again, this is the NDSI, NASDAQ Sentiment Index. Yeah, nothing, neutral. Did we even get, I think we got above 57. We got above neutral on Friday, NASDAQ. Pretty remarkable. But look how long we hung out down there. We were down there for a while. You see down here? S&P, a little, we did get above neutral, 51. So still stuck in the middle. So nothing really screaming. This is from Hedgetopia over there, COT, because I didn't get a chance to look at the COT data. Look at the NASDAQ futures, NASDAQ 100, okay, the NQ, right? We looked at this a couple times. You wouldn't think it. Look where this is. They just went to a net long position. Can you believe that? Now the S&P looks different than this. The S&P, believe it or not, ES, they're really long. But just so many people wanted out of these tech names and tech exposure. It's really remarkable. Look. You're talking about, look back here. You see where they went negative to a net short position? And that's where we're coming out of there. So that's why I think we're seeing that solid strength. And I think it's going to continue. I think it's just going to be in a rotation type mode that it comes in. Maria, what are you saying? So glad you've been talking about being careful with crude. Got me out of positions. Yeah, Maria, it's just, you know what it is from my experience? And when you see this not working, right? When you see red hot sentiment and it's still and something continues to go grind higher, you're like, well, maybe it's different for this, right? Maybe it's different. Maybe there's still a lot of upside here before they correct. And it always feels like that until out of nowhere. Like, what was it, the OPEC headline that really just set it off for no, you know what I mean? Out of nowhere. And then, whoop, it wipes out a lot of that extra move, right? Like, let's take a couple, oops, wrong chart. Just an example. And not every name, some names continue higher, but just as a whole. So, like, let's say Hess. Okay, this is one of my favorite names because it's caught a ton of action. So here's where Hess was really tough for me to buy, even with the action coming in, because with crude red hot, sentiment-wise, I know deep down inside this eventually is all going to wash out, this leg, and that's what happens. So let's say you're looking here for a long. Is this enough for you to lock in to absorb something like this, risk reward wise? And the answer is no, because you may not even lock this in and you get caught in something like that. So that's why it pays. Again, you don't want to get too carried away in individual names with, off sentiment. Okay, only in corrective phases like we were in is where you really want to pay attention to it. In other words, if you own Facebook, you don't want, just because NASDAQ is a little too high, you don't want to take that as an automatic sell signal, because that'll get you in trouble. You just want, as far as putting on additional risk, new positions. That's how you want to look at this stuff. You know, in a correction, you might want to be a little more serious about it. Gold. Did I post gold? Gold look interesting, sentiment wise again. I don't have gold up here. I can get it quickly. Hold on. Is gold on here? Gold's not on here. When did I post gold? Hold on, I'll find gold. Bear with me 1 second. It takes 1 second. But here is GLD, by the way. Okay. And I know right here, gold, not GLD, but gold, I don't know if there's a major difference, flashed a bullish sentiment signal, meaning people were a little too bearish. Okay, so you're back there now. After a gap up, you're pretty much back in that range. Gold may be, what I would look at gold is kind of like maybe a hedge in the markets. Here's the problem with gold and GLD. Peter, we talked about this a lot. The reason why I never been a big gold fan is because it's anti-market, right? It's happened before where stocks and gold have rallied at the same time. It's very possible it can happen again, sort of an inflation type theme, right? But more than not, it doesn't happen that way. So that's why I've never been a gold fan. You know what I mean? If it sets up on the sentiment side or off flow, you know, because it's a bearish play, or more than that, it's a bearish play. But if it's something you want to add to your account, your positions, your portfolio, your long names, and want to add a gold position, you know, now would be the time to look at it as opposed to up here. Now would be the time. Even if you're early, you're better off here, Peter. You understand? I think that's another thing we'll talk about quickly today. A lot of, I think, players, and I like myself, you know, it was a problem for me early on in my career. Players don't like to be early. They want to get in something and they want to be up on it instantly. Okay? But what we don't realize a lot of times, it's great if we're up instantly, but if we're not locking in that gain, it means nothing. You understand? If I go and I'm swinging GLD August calls, I could be up on it the next 2 days. If I'm not locking in that profit, you know, this thing, if I'm buying up here, could be in disaster mode for me in a week. So I think when you're looking to make a play off sentiment, or as I like to say, buying blood in a lot of these things, anticipate being early. Expect to be early. If you're not, that's great. You know, because I think a lot of times, if traders don't see the stock up in the first couple of days, they lose faith, they lose interest. And that's not how you want to really look at swing trading. You know, day trading is a different story, right? You need something to move now. If it's not moving now, it's useless. But swing trading, it's okay to be early. You're a little bit early as long as you're buying at the right time, off blood, off sentiment, off flow. Usually the rally that will follow will make up for more than that little bit of earliness. If it doesn't, it's just a loser like anything else. You know, but you got a better shot down here of catching that move than you have up here. More than not. Right? So my example here is you buy GLD here, you're up. Okay? If this is not something you're taking, like the oil trade, look what happens to you. And it looks so good for the first couple of days. You know what we're seeing it now? Here's a good example of it. IGT. God, this looks like hell. Right? Like hell. But you were buying you know, whoever is out there, I bought it, but we're buying blood. You know, we're buying flow that's coming into some vicious selling. Just because we're buying it doesn't mean it's going to stop on a dime and go higher from there. Sometimes that happens, but not all the time. You know, and there's been some selling. There's obviously a seller coming out, but somebody out there, we see it every single day, is buying this weakness like he couldn't give two shits about what's going on here, right? He couldn't care less. And you know what? Like, unlike some of us who were waiting for the flow to materialize, we got a better entry than he did initially. He started buying this thing really early up here, you know, and just continued to add all the way down. We bought it over here and are down a little bit, and I still sense panic, you know? So this is an example of, you know, what I'm talking about here. You feel better buying it up here, right? We always feel better buying it up here. But if you're not going to take this quick profit, you always risk maybe not this big, but something like that. And look at IGT. Okay, just look at this. How many times it's done it too, right? Yeah, maybe this sell-off's a little bit, you know, further. But look, up here, breakout buyers, dead. What the sweepers do? They did the same thing they're doing now. They started buying here, 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 here. They bought up all this. And then look what happened. You know? So, and again, you know, you don't want to get hung up on one stock. In other words, if IGT doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's a loser. Okay. It happens. But, you know, more than not, when you see this type of flow come into a name like this, more than not, you're going to have a decent winner on your hands. You know, stocks are just all different. We saw it in PayPal. Same exact thing. Stock looked awful. I mean, awful. I don't think we remember how awful PayPal looked, right? PayPal, they bought it here initially, right here. Whoop. Look at that. Nice timing, right? A day later, smashed. What they do? They bought it again. Lower again, they bought even more. And now look at this thing. This thing went from looking like a disaster, ready to break out the new highs. So that's, you know, that's why it's important just to have an idea of what you're playing here, you know? Just if you're playing weeklies, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. You want to catch a big move, you got to have time on your side. All right. So I think my point being, Paul, I went into that ramble. Why I don't know, but GLD, that's the way you got to look at it, I think. You know what I mean? If you're interested in it. Again, if you're not interested in gold, there's no reason to buy it, in my opinion. You know, if it's something you like to buy, then you could add it to your account here. All right, so we pretty much tackled sentiment, right? You guys got an idea of where we're at. I think the rotation, the constant rotation we're going to see is going to help these sectors. So every time a sector may get too hot, I'll breathe, come back to maybe neutralish, and then flow eventually will find it again. You know, you can see it here. Everything's cooled off, I think, for the most part. Everything was hot at one point. See, like technology, hot. They cooled it off a little bit. Now they've been bum rushing into it. You're going to see this thing probably get hot again. Even the consumer staples, they had a little bit of a bounce. Some of them better than others. Back to neutral. You know, they got hit over the head with the tariff stuff. That'll probably set up again. And same with energy. Financials, too, have been pretty awful. That's them right here. All right, now let's get into some names, because I get excited when we see flow like we were seeing Thursday, Friday. What did I do? Oh, let me go to this here. Oh, by the way, if any of you trade futures, I post this from time to time. This is the daily sentiment index for everything. So, Paul, here's gold. Not the chart, but here's gold. All right. Why does it come up like that? Hold on a second. I'm missing the top. Maybe I can't see it. Let me get this off. There we go. All right. So here's the, you see raw, that's the updated data, and that's basically an average. So you can get an idea of where it's been, where we're headed, that type of thing. So you can see gold here, red. That means that's bearish extreme. Green would be bullish extreme. And it's got currencies and all that stuff on there, if any of you trade that stuff. All right, some good looking action. The first couple of names here really caught some nice bets. YY, Chinese name. She can move too. Not the most ideal spot, but these things are hot, and this thing can move. So I would have loved this. Like, you see this shake and bake? I would have liked that for just even a quick trade. They came in, the stock was like flattish in the afternoon. But had a little rally here. Really hasn't moved like some of the other ones have. And this was a good looking sweep. 1200 June 125. So looking for a quick move. Okay. Earnings? Oh man. Are you serious? Jesus. Forgot about the earnings. Thanks for raining on my parade there. Anyway, if you like it, you could trade it into the number. I wouldn't bet on earnings off that bet. If you like the setup, buy it. Maybe they'll push it up into the number and dump it. I wouldn't hold into earnings. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I don't know why I didn't realize it. Anyway, FDC, I bought a little of this for myself. I bought the Julys. These are Junes. I didn't put a July on here, son of a gun. There was some nice July action too in this FDC. They all came in the late day. There's been flow in this name for a while, as you guys know. Okay. They bought, let me show you what they've been doing here. The best action in FDC was, I think it was July and Jan call buying into this and into this. Okay. Finally busted out and then some. Yeah, Deep just posted the July 20 sweepers. That's the one I played, Deep. They played both June and July. June was really cheap. So if you want to take a cheap flyer there. But you can see here, big move. Now, this is what at the least you want to see, right? It's kind of like Trip that we saw, Trip recently. After a big move like this, at least some sort of breather, and then the actions start to heat up again. Maybe giving you a heads up. The momentum's ready to come back into it. All right. That's what we saw on Thursday into Friday. There was action Thursday too. Not as aggressive. Friday, it looked to me like they really wanted to get in on Friday. So we'll see what that ends up evolving into. But worth a look. They're cheap, and this is not known as a big mover. If you happen to catch a big move by accident, you're going to get paid on those things. You're going to get paid. Like the couple of guys who caught this, they got paid on like 20-cent calls. All right, so take a peek at this thing Monday, especially if they come in again. But even without them coming again, worth an eye. Here's the weekly on this side of the screen. By the way, just 2 bullets. Leon Cooperman, huge position in this thing. And Ken Langone, 2 big guys. I've been calling the sweepers in this thing for the last couple of months Cooperman sweepers. You guys probably saw that. All right, so FDC worth a look. Why we spoke about Nugget. So this is what I was talking about, Pete. If you want to make a play on gold, the miners, this Nugget caught a decent order. Look at this order. This is as good looking as a bet as you're going to get Nugget. You're not going to get much better looking than this. So August 24 calls, they're a bit in the money, right? Not any spec action, real deal bet. Looking for that high delta, bang for his buck, $500,000. And, it's a leveraged ETF, so spots, I don't know. But not a bad spot. Anyway, you're not really chasing a move there. Off a little breather. You got some time. And you're hoping, I don't know. If you like the miners, there's your confirmation. I know a couple guys in the room were looking at the miners, asking me about action. I think the day before, Thursday, boom, there's the Nugget bet. So if you were looking at it, that's your strategy, you got it. What's the numbers? Oh, when does FDC have numbers? I think August. FDC earnings are in August, I'm almost positive. August 6th, Maria saying. Oh, you're talking about the numbers. These numbers? Oh, that's DeMar counts, sequence counter. That tells us when a move gets exhausted to the upside or downside, basically. So like this. No, I don't use it. This is what I use it for. See this? When you buy blood, I like to see this. IGT, pink. See this? IGT, top, pink. So I like to buy blood with time. It comes in handy. And I told you, a buddy of mine swears by it, but I don't know DeMar. I don't know the details behind DeMar's whole strategy. I don't have the time to do that. So, but he swears that setups like this, the IGT 9 with action, that's what he likes to play. All right, let's get to some other names here quickly. NWL, that's a blood name. So that's one, again, anticipate being really early. You could wait for more action to come in. I probably would do so. You're talking about straight up blood. Look at this disaster. Wow. 7, 8. You're 1 day away from a 9 there. Jans. Okay. Jan 23 calls, a block, a sweep. Decent orders. All right, decent orders. So it's worth keeping an eye on if you like to play these things. Maybe look for some other action to come in. Similar to how we were looking at that IGT. You don't have to rush to buy it. Buy a piece maybe if you're that interested. But this is straight up blood. But again, my job is to tell you what orders are worth looking at, and that was an order worth looking at. Trip, unbelievable. Trip was the most aggressive activity on the day, Friday, right out of the gate. Right out of the gate, they were sweeping calls like mad. So this is like the, what setup did we say? Oh, FDC. So you can see here, Trip, right? Caught, honestly, there were 3 sweepers in Trip pre-earnings over here that were beautiful, beautiful. And you had earnings in the way. So we were hoping for some weakness off earnings, that whole schlabeel. And we got this, boop, explosion. Okay. So like we talk about, you don't want to chase this. You want at least this, at the least. And then you had some action stem up again here. And then exploded Friday morning. The action exploded Friday morning. And this thing, I didn't even realize where it closed. I lost track of it in the afternoon. This thing was up $3. $3. Wow. This is the weekly on Trip on this side here. So you can see on longer term time frames, still has a lot of work to do there. They hit up several different strikes. Pretty aggressive. June monthlies, next week weeklies. But you can see here, the stock really moved. So you're chasing even this action here. So forget about. Here's 54.67, 54.16. That's the price the action came in. 53.41, 54.50. So again, I put the action on there because it was really aggressive. There's not much you could do with that now. This was a good looking bet too. PSTG. I day traded it. I didn't take any for a swing. Underbelly tech play. Tech underbelly, and pretty good name. They do okay in this name for a trade, because you can see it has its ups and downs. They like to buy this thing coming off a pullback, not necessarily at the lows, but in the midst of a turn, and had a strong day Friday. So a name without a doubt to keep an eye on next week. We get Italy headline news. This thing's down 70 cents, and you see some action there. There you go. I think they do storage, right? What do they do, these guys? Storage, yeah. That's what I remember. Oh, this dip was earnings here? Okay. So this was off earnings. That's when you get these dips off earnings, I like that, I like that. You get another opportunity in these names in an uptrend. Competitor to EMC and NTAP. There was actually a little NTAP buying too. I should have probably put on that list. There was a lot of action. NTAP looks okay too. Yep. I'll post that on Twitter. You guys can take a look at NTAP. Decent bet there. All right. So I've been getting a lot of questions on this, and some newer members. So I wanted to, I like that. I want to start putting these on there because I think it's valuable stuff if you guys play this way. Leaps. I got a couple questions from a good amount of you guys that you were interested in longer term bets. Okay. We've been seeing a lot of them paying out nicely. You're okay being early. You got a lot of time. You could build a position that, as long as you're okay with that. HIMX. Jan 2020, $7 and $8 calls. This is what it looks like on a daily. So you can see you got some potential longer term there. Not buying at highs or anything. All right, this is the weekly to the right of us here. That's a weekly. There was some shorter term activity in HIMX as well. I wouldn't make a big deal of that. The best action that comes in this name is Leaps. They've done it before and they've done well, even though the stock looks like this. Like this thing had leap buying back a while back. I can't even go that far back, but back there, and you can see the highs there. Oops. All right, so that's one of them. I got another one for you too. Hold on. Oh, I put it both on here. FCAU. This is another name they've done well with leaps. That's Chrysler. Off some real nice weakness. What happened? Hold on. Okay. So you can see here the selling looks worse than it was. This is when all those recalls were happening out there. But these guys came in and really scooped up a decent amount of leaps. And I read, I don't know when the news came out, but they're really starting to pick up the pace in electric cars, hybrid cars. I don't know if that came out after the action or not. Take a peek at that. Paul Tesla, maybe a while back. I think you're thinking of CMG. I think you might be thinking of Chipotle. That had the leap call buyer. Tesla had leaps a month ago? I don't remember. I usually would. Maybe. Could have been. And then you got Roku here. I know a lot of you guys like to trade this name. Well, some of you. Here's the story with Roku. Off this sell-off here, back here to the left of your screen, there was decent looking June sweeps came into this weakness. Okay. You had earnings, the whole shebang gone, grinded its way higher. Nothing really, I wouldn't say you had the action right before this pop, if you remember. You remember those guys that came in? That was Citron. And now you got another sweep here. So you got a little bit of a pull if you're interested. Just a one order here. Not as good looking as some of the orders we saw in the past, but legit. A legit July sweep. All right, again, if you were looking at Roku and looking for action, definitely a legitimate bet. If you were looking for action. I see Tim throwing out some stuff there, definitely some interesting stuff. CPB, that's another one for those of you long-term players. Not even leaps, just long-term in general. Again, looks like garbage, had a little lift back here. They've been sticking pretty much with November and Jan calls. Okay, these are the consumer staples. They got lit up. What else did you have out there, Tim? What was the other name you threw out there? I didn't see. Hold on. Oops. Yeah, Xilinx is gone now. You don't want to chase Xilinx. But that was really nice action. Really nice action. There's a lot of names to keep an eye on that even haven't really done much. You got a lot of names out there. Even the JD, which JD is always a handful, but JD you can keep an eye on here. If action really starts to heat up again, you could definitely get a squeeze here. Some of the semis heated up Friday, so you don't want to chase. But this was a nice one. Thursday into weakness. LRCX. She can really move. So keep an eye on these names. You get a dip in some action there. Oops, hold on. Yeah, LRCX does look good. Does look good. You want to try to buy the name on weakness, because my experience with this thing is, you, like a day like this, you have this as cushion now. You know what I mean? So now if this stock is down a little bit Monday with the overall market or whatever, you're not getting too panicky. You got a little bit of a cushion, and when this thing gets hot, forget it. Forget it. If this thing gets hot, you're talking about catching, 15-point day. So worth keeping an eye on. Hasn't really got out yet. Just don't chase. Another one that caught a real nice bet, but was into strength. ADI. That was Thursday. Again, another good-looking bet into a day where everybody was panicky off the tariff news. Or Wednesday. You know what I mean. Here's ADI. Strong name. The sweepers are unbelievable in this name too. Unbelievable. Last time they swept this thing was right at the lows here. Whip put selling. There was some put selling too. Snap has had flow, if you like Snap, but she's been moving. You don't want to. I wouldn't chase this, Paul. Yeah, possible. Paul's talking about the gap here possibly getting filled. Possible. You know me, I don't want to chase this now. Maybe if you get a little breather there. See what happens now, Paul. What we're talking about, the gap fill, you're going to have a lot of riffraff looking at that. So if they're playing gap fill, there's going to be a shakeout. That's where you want to look. You know what I mean? There should be a red day, and that's where you want to look instead of chasing this. How about IQ, man? Oh my God. They were selling puts again on Friday. I can't get over this thing. I can't get over it. I can't get over it. I feel good. I don't own it, but a decent amount of people in the room owned it, including MJ. MJ, by the way, you guys know MJ. She's on fire. MJ, very quickly, I don't want to jinx her, and she's not too hard to jinx. Trust me. She's as degenerate as they come. MJ, plays with small accounts. She took her account, I think, from $450. You ready? $450 to like $5,000. Oh, 250? Oh my God, 250. Can you imagine? How do you do that? I don't know. Yeah, she's had some big winners. She had this IQ was the biggest. And then she hit 4 straight names prior to this IQ. So good for her, man. Because she's been through some frustrating times. Now she's got a little block she can maneuver around. You know? But this IQ made a dent, made a big dent. Microsoft. Yeah, Microsoft. I mean, guys, these names like Microsoft, they've just been solid as a rock. This grind, you know? Flow has been incredible in this. Microsoft, Intel, these names see non-stop flow, non-stop. So you really don't hear me get excited about Intel, Microsoft, unless you remember when I was excited about Microsoft was in the correction when it caught the missile. Because the flow went quiet, it caught a missile into the lows. So that's what got me giddy. Now Microsoft has seen flow ever since. So I think this continues, this grind. You'll get mini shakeouts like this. Could be an entry for a short-term trade type thing. Another great name with incredible action, very quietly too, Square. Square started off with a humongous put seller, if you guys remember, that marked the lows. Remember that? The put seller? And then July call sweepers, really aggressive. Really aggressive. The problem for me and a lot of us were, a lot of damage done already. So you have to chase the move pretty much here. Yeah, Twitter, real nice action. They've been aggressive too in Twitter. They've been aggressive. Friday, they were sweeping Twitter all morning. Maria saying she started scaling out a Square Friday. That was a nice one, Maria. I remember you talking about that name quite a few times. That definitely was a nice one. Yeah, Twitter looks great. Again, this is a chase here. I want to see, like Maria's saying, she's scaling out of Square. A lot of traders I know who are in these things are starting to take some chips off the table and now hoping the flow spills into some other setups. We're talking about some of the semi names, right? The chips, stuff like that. So they don't have to be bloody dead names, but other stuff that really didn't rally as hard. Twitter looks good. Baba, Baba has been strong as hell. Oops. I don't know what you do with Baba. Kind of like Facebook up here, and really nice looking action, but she's a trade up here for me. Baidu is a little different. Yes, Baidu's a little different. Good looking August sweep into this. Kind of played dead. Had a bit of a lift on Friday. See if she could get hot. So Baidu definitely a lagger. Deep is saying he's staying long, Baba. Yeah, what I mean by I don't have an opinion. I wouldn't chase up here. Risk reward wise, I wouldn't chase. I would look for some sort of dip. And that's another thing. We look at like the Friday action, and now it feels like we're not going to get a dip. We'll get the dips. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be a different market here. This is not, you don't have to worry about missing entries. I think they'll be around. You see, like oil ran away and then you get a wash. There'll be washes in these things. If not, there'll be mini dips that you can look to take advantage of. Mini dips. But I think we got to look at more of things like this, that haven't really materialized yet. Cron, what is this thing people keep talking about, Cron? What is this, Tim? Biotech? Oh, God. Are you serious? Weed? No wonder everyone's all giddy. Yeah, so you're going to buy some of this. If you're into getting zooted, might as well tuck away a little of this at $6. Actually, it does look interesting over here. Without a doubt. Setup wise. Without a doubt. Yeah. I like coming off here, You don't want to chase these things. You want it. Yeah. If you're going to own it, this is where you own it. This is where you want to own it. Oh, Tech is unbelievable. I like Tech. Tech is a great name. Tech looks good. They've done well in this Tech too. They've done well in this Tech. Tech caught a good looking order right on this day here. I day traded it close strong. Where'd it close? It closed up on Friday. Yeah, up 33 cents. Was actually up like a buck pre-market, but that was a fallacy. The last time they hit tech was right down here. And look at this nice little ramp. Definitely a good looking order there, Bill. Definitely a good looking order on tech. What else? We had the steel names. That was a tariff play, quick trade. WB, yes, that didn't squeeze yet either. That didn't squeeze yet. Good call, Paul. Something to keep an eye on. China play, right? China play. Wow. Yeah, so that listen, we were hoping for this, if you remember, right? We were talking about this for a couple weeks. We got it now. The individual name stuff, we got it now. This is fun time. You know what I mean? This is fun time. We coming out of one of the see, I kind of have mixed feelings. I like, I don't know about you guys, but I like this environment we were in prior because believe it or not, I see clearer as far as the overall market is concerned. Okay. I know it doesn't make much sense, but what I mean by that is I know, okay, from my experience, this is my playbook in that environment. There's no in between. I'm looking to buy here, okay, and I want to sell the squeeze that comes. Now it's the individual name stuff where you got to focus on more. I'll be dead honest with you guys. I haven't really paid attention to the overall market in like 2 weeks. Sometimes I don't even know what the market's doing. I don't even know what the market's doing. You know? So don't get hung up on SPY, sell programs, algos pushing the market lower for the afternoon. The flow trumps all right now. The flow trumps everything. You know, as long as you see buying out there, we're fine. You know, remember we were worried about buyers drying up. Remember, that was the concern. If buyers dry up, you know, we're going to be back in this mess again. So now this market, this market can do nothing, and individual names can outperform. Why the financials get no love? Yeah, the fins have been a mess. Oops. And the reasoning behind it, more than likely, is because of Europe. Europe has headaches, plain and simple. Yeah. Deutsche Bank. Have you seen that stock? You know, so we are going to have headlines out there that are likely to rattle the overall markets. It's going to happen. So that's why I think this market's going to be different, where it's not going to necessarily ignore it. We'll get pullbacks that should be opportunities. You know what I mean? Yeah, look at this thing. They got headaches, this DB. And even though, Paul, it shouldn't weigh on our financials because this is not 2008, these financials are actually prepared, more than prepared, and more than capitalized for something like that again, you know? But they shoot first, ask questions later, and let's be honest, they're messy, but they're not a disaster. I mean, look at it like a weekly on JP Morgan. You know, it just looks like normal consolidation. Oh yeah, Goldman's been a mess forever. Goldman is Goldman's messier. It's not Deutsche Bank. You know what I mean? But that's because they got their hands in everything. Yeah, look, here's the weekly on Goldman. Let's see a week. Look at the weekly on DB, Paul. Look at this thing. Oh my God. But you know what's crazy? They were talking about DB going under the next Lehman back, you guys remember, in 2016, right here. And then, then they squeezed it and everybody forgot about it. So short term, the headlines might be out there, but don't let them rattle you. Don't let them rattle you. Yeah, and I think if you're looking to buy banks on weakness, JP Morgan, Bank of America, even Citi, just make sure you have enough time. Do not chase green, though. You can't chase green. You know what I mean? You can't chase this move. Try not to do that. You want to buy off the washes and just make sure you have enough time if you're early. And I think you'll be okay. I think you'll be okay. And also, if this whole Europe little scenario gets pushed aside, kick the can down the road as usual, you might see these banks explode to the upside. It's just a matter of when. Let's see, what do the financials, the sector look like? Did we look at that? That should be interesting. Let's see. I don't think we're there yet because we were hot on the financials. We're getting closer. So I would keep an eye on this, Paul. I'll make sure I throw it out there more so you guys are aware of it, all right? I would keep an eye on this here. You get this. You know what I mean? You get that. And I think it's probably a good idea. So that was this. That's where it's set up last here. This weakness. John saying the financials always seem to get hot in the fall. Not a bad idea, but yeah, with time. John's right. John's right. Just again, try. If you miss it, you miss it. Chasing green, you know what I mean, is where you get in trouble. I know a lot of you guys like to say, "Oh, if it breaks this level, that's where I want to buy." But when they're out of favor, this is what can happen to you. Again, not to sound like a broken record, you rather buy here and be early because, like John's saying, when they finally come back in favor, and the banks are coming back in favor, there's going to be a lot of money that wants to go into these banks. Paul, yeah, there were big orders that came into the banks for that Dodd-Frank ruling, I think. Right? I think it was a play on that Dodd-Frank thing. Then they popped and sold off, yeah. But I would keep an eye on the action here. Yeah, the day before the sell-off, they sold off on the news. XLF, right? Wasn't there like 100,000 XLF? Yeah, into strength. Yeah. It was like up here into strength somewhere. Here, I think. Right at the top. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, they got time. They got time. So yeah, that's what I would do. But I'll post this out there for you guys. That's what I would keep an eye on to get a quality risk reward setup. Where was this? This was late last year. It looks like. late last year. Oh, that was the last setup here. Look at that. Look at that. You see that? That was the last time they got a buy signal on the sentiment side there. And look at that rally that followed there, Paul. See what I mean? Look how awful it looked. Right? Look how awful. Right. Double bottom and boop. Like a machine. Like a machine. So as bad as it looks, we got to keep an eye on it with time. You want the time to catch it. All right, I'm running out of voice, as you guys could tell. Anybody have any questions on anything? Did I miss anybody? Anybody have anything to add before we wrap it up? All right, so things look good. Keep an eye on the flow. Try not to chase, as always. You know what I mean? And yeah, FDC I spoke about, Raj. The webinars are recorded, so you can go back and we spoke about it a bit, but looks good. Looks really good. Looks really good. Thank you, Ronchero. PayPal looks great. I sold my October calls like a jackass, but looks great. PayPal looks great. All right, thanks, guys. Yeah, I'll be better listen, I'll be in front of the screens Monday by hook or by crook anyway, but all right, enjoy the weekend. I'll try. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Be good, everybody.